Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Amber Hines, and I'm the owner of Ashbur. We specialize in Medicaid compliant annuities, and we help elder law and estate planning attorneys from across the country to help secure Medicaid for their clients by using annuities and prepaid funeral policies in some situations that is appropriate as well. Today, I'm super excited to introduce Todd Whatley, who is an elder law attorney in Arkansas as well as Oklahoma. He also has a business that he helps coach other elder law attorneys to help them to get into this area of law. And so today, Todd is going to be talking about practical tips for Medicaid planning, how to help your clients preserve their assets, and navigating the Medicaid maze that Medicaid is. And so if you have questions during today's presentation, feel free to type those into the questions bar of the GoToWebinar dashboard. And if you're interested in the slides from today's presentation, you can email me or Todd to get that information as well. So thank you again. And with that, I will hand the presentation over to you, Todd.
Hey, Amber, thank you very much. I always enjoy doing this for you, and this is absolutely one of my favorite topics is, trying to go back, practical tips, going back to the very beginning. And I want to talk about that just a little bit because I do remember specifically how intimidating it is when you first get into this and trying to figure out all the rules. You can learn the rules, but then applying it to cases is sometimes a advanced skill, and it is extremely frustrating. So yes, let's jump into it. So I am Todd Whatley. I have 25 years of experience. I just passed my 26th year. That doesn't seem real. I became a certified elder law attorney, I think in 2006 or 2007, I forget. I got to be on the board of the National Elder Law Foundation pretty soon thereafter, I think 2009. And then I was very honored to be the president of the National Elder Law Foundation from 2016 to 2018. And I'm still very involved. I grade the test. I am one of the graders. And so that's always fun. I also in the late 2000s got my LLM in elder law from Stetson University. And then about 5 years ago, started the elder law coach just because I was encountering people who really needed some help and needed a mentor. And I'll go over some of that at the very end today. If you are interested in that, I would love to talk to you. Okay. So why does Medicaid planning matter? Okay. There's some major issues out there. Number one, the rising cost of long-term care is huge. It goes up about 5% every year. Okay, and it's not cheap to start with, and then going up 5% every year is just a huge issue. Even in my area of Arkansas, which tends to be fairly cheap, we're pushing $10,000 a month, and so a nursing home placement is well over $100,000 per year in cost. And there's a lot of families who can't afford that. They have some money. If you're just absolutely broke, it's not a big deal because Medicaid pays for it. And if you're super rich, $8, $10, $15 million, $100,000 a year, okay, fine. But it's those people that really have scrimped and saved and are 400,000, 500,000 up to $1 million, maybe even 1.5 million. $100,000 a year hurts, okay? Hurts really bad to do that. And the other thing that just makes this the perfect job in a way that you can truly help people is there is so much misinformation out there. And I've done presentations for Amber before on some of the misconceptions of Medicaid. And people come in scared to death. They are having a bad day anyway because they just had to put their loved one into a nursing home. And now they're being told at the beauty shop and church and friends and sometimes even the nursing home, oh, you're going to have to spend everything in order to have Medicaid pick up your bill. And it's just absolutely not true. So you've got these people with a very real problem. and they're getting bad information from people. And this is a great opportunity for you to be the professional, have people come in, sit down with you. And I normally, when I'm doing that meeting, I try to save it toward the end to bring in the good news. But there are some times when you've got sweet little Miss Jones sitting there and she's just stressed out. She's like, I am having a terrible day and I'm going to lose everything. And this is terrible. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I can tell she's not even listening to me. I'm like, Miss Jones, stop. Let's stop right here. And I'm going to tell you. And oh, one practice point real quick. If you're not doing this, do this in every meeting, is start the meeting, not at the very beginning, but somewhere when you start getting into Medicaid and getting their facts and things, say, hey, what is your understanding of Medicaid? What do you think's going to happen? Sometimes that just comes up organically, but if it doesn't, I always want to know where these people are. And I would say 6 or 8 times out of 10, they're like, well, my understanding is you don't qualify till you're down to $2,000. His income's going to the nursing home. I may lose my house. I'm going to lose everything. And you want to know that. And with them thinking that, you coming in and saying none of that is true, it's a fantastic meeting. And so once she's told me, I think I'm going to lose everything, I try to save the good news till the end, but sometimes you can just tell they're not listening to you. They're just in their head. They're panicked. And so I say, Miss Jones, I know that your understanding is you're going to lose everything. That is not true. By the end of this hour meeting, I'm going to show you how we can protect your house. We can protect almost all of your income and almost all of the assets. I know everyone on earth has told you something different, but I promise you, I know what I'm doing. This is what I do. And I've been doing it for years now. By the end of this meeting, you're going to see that it's going to be okay. And I mean, you can just see her go, okay, I trust you because you're an attorney and you seem to know what you're talking about. So, okay, now she's focused. Now she's listening. Now she will take notes and learn how we can protect everything. All right. So the objective today is to teach practical strategies to qualify for Medicaid legally, of course, and ethically, and to show how Medicaid compliant annuities in both married and single, they are huge tools that can make this a very good day for this person. All right. So with a married couple, the first thing that you need to start with is this thing called a snapshot date. And the snapshot date is the first day of 30 days in a facility. Now, you can probably check your rules. You can probably start a snapshot date by doing a Medicaid application. So particularly if you're not in a nursing home, if you're at home or doing assisted living, if your state pays for that, you can get a snapshot date by simply doing an application. But if you're going into a nursing home, the Medicaid system says once you're in the nursing home and if you're there for 30 days, we go back to day one, look at your assets, and that's where we start this process with a married couple. Now, one thing that I've learned, and I'm assuming if we can do it in Arkansas, we can do it anywhere, is you can pick and choose your snapshot dates. I actually had a case where the family had done some major shifting of assets and we finally got it back, but just in the process, it messed up her going into the nursing home. And I was fighting this because I was like, hey, it's a constructive trust. She moved it. It was still for mom's benefit. She was going to buy a house with it, all kinds of things. Well, that argument wasn't going well in the appeal process until the judge actually said, something came up in testimony about her being in a nursing home like 2 years earlier. And so we start looking into it, and the judge is like, well, that was she there 30 days? Once we proved it, she said, well, if that's the snapshot date, this money was in their account as of that point. You've now spent it and done things with it. She now qualifies. And I was like, wow, thanks, Judge. So you can pick and choose snapshot dates. All right. So, and people will come in and be very careful here. Here's a huge practice pointer, is if someone comes in pre-planning, okay, not 5 years pre-planning, but it's like, hey, Harold's not doing well. He's not in the nursing home yet, but we're thinking about putting him into the nursing home. I'm good friends with so-and-so. She came to see you. She said you were able to protect the assets. So we're here seeing how we can protect our assets. I'm like, fantastic. I love pre-planning, but since he's not in the nursing home yet, we don't have a snapshot. In those meetings, I go ahead and I go through the entire explanation of how we do spend down and different things, but I say it until they're sick of me saying it. I'm like, we do this spending after the snapshot date. Okay, we do it after the snapshot date. After the snapshot date, we do this, and then we do this after the snapshot. So you just say it and say it and say it, because I've had people in that meeting come in and I go through this and I think I've said it enough, and they leave my office and they go spend all this money. Well, crap, we don't have a snapshot date yet. You just spin it off the top rather than just their portion of it. So be very careful. But the whole thing, where this starts, is the snapshot date. That is crucial. Now, income. So some states have a cap. Okay, if you live in an income cap state, you have to do a Miller Trust or irrevocable income only trust to get a person qualified. And there's a whole, I could do a whole seminar just on that, but you should understand that. If your state does not have a limit, as long as the income is less than the cost of care, you qualify for Medicaid. All right. And then I think there's 3 states that if the community spouse's income is too high, you have to contribute to the cost of care. So if you're creating income, you really do have to keep those things in mind and not accidentally increase the income to the point where you're paying 25% to the nursing home. Okay. So income is important. Anything that comes into their account, that is income. It stays as income for the first 30 days. After 30 days, it becomes an asset. So with assets, we have typically, most states have a $2,000 limit for the person applying for Medicaid. And kind of thankfully, people hear this number, and with a married couple, they hear $2,000 and they think their total assets have to be under $2,000. No, that's not true. There are what I call spousal protection rules under the Medicaid rules. And so one of those things is the Community Spouse Resource Allowance, or CSRA. Okay. So typically this varies by state also, but typically on the snapshot date, you look at the countable assets, 1/2 goes to each spouse. That half maxes out at 157,940, I think, or basically 160. Okay, let's just go with 160. That's not the real number. Check out your number. Amber has a fantastic place on her website. Just go to ashbur.com and then look up state resources. Your state is there. She has every state's numbers there. So if you don't know what your numbers are, go to Ashbur, and Amber tells you what those are. Okay, so community spouse resource is crucial, but that only occurs on the snapshot date. Okay, you have to have a snapshot date to set that number and then split it out. All right. Countable versus non-countable. This is very basic, but you obviously have to understand it. So the non-countable assets, your home. Okay, typically it's your home and any land that's attached to it. 1 car, and it can be the most expensive or the one with the most equity. Any personal items in the house. Okay, anything personal. And sometimes in these meetings, you need to have selective hearing, and they start talking about something, and it's like, well, it's like, stop. If it's in your house, it's not countable. Okay, stop talking. Stop naming things for me. Just know if it's in your house, it is a non-countable asset. All right. Prepaid funeral, irrevocable prepaid funeral. The policies that Amber sells qualify for that. Irrevocable services, whole 9 yards. Now, some states allow IRAs to be non-countable assets, meaning some states don't count IRAs. Amber can get you that list. She just sent it to me because I was working with some coaching clients and I was not sure which states allowed IRAs. Sometimes it's the institutionalized spouse's IRA is not counted. Sometimes it's the community spouse, and sometimes it's none. Both states that I work in, Oklahoma and Arkansas, we always count IRAs. And so Amber has a list. If you are working with someone, if you don't know what your state does, she can tell you. And if you're working with someone from another state, that form would tell you. So the four big ones: home, car, household furnishings, and burial or funeral. Okay, those four things, I think in all 50 states don't count. Sometimes IRAs. Everything else gets counted. So cash, IRAs, brokerage accounts, non-home real estate, other vehicle, timeshares. My Lord, Arkansas people love timeshares for some reason, and we're dealing with timeshares all the time. Thankfully, due to a number of lawsuits and different things, most timeshares now have zero value. You can't sell them. But proving that sometimes is an issue, but it is something you must deal with because it's not the home, so therefore it's a countable asset if there's any value to it. Other vehicles. So if they have more than one car, a car, truck, whatever, pick the most expensive one or the one with the most equity. That is the non-countable vehicle. But then boats, trailers, and things like that do count as countable resources, and that's what's got to be down below $2,000 for the person applying for Medicaid. All right, the next concept we need to understand and be familiar with is the look back period. The 5-year look back is for asset transfers. Now, technically, you're supposed to tell if you transfer any significant assets, even if you sell it for full market value, you need to show it was sold and here's the valuation and here's what we got for it. But what they're really looking for is transfers for less than fair market value, also known as gifts. And I am telling you, just as a practice pointer, you have to dwell on this in a meeting. If you ask a client, have you made gifts to anyone? They're like, no. Okay. Have you sold anything for less than fair market value? Well, oh, yeah, I've sold my, granddads love to sell vehicles to their grandchildren, granddaughters, grandsons, whatever. They love to sell it, and they sold it, but they said they did not sell it for full market value. That is a gift. The difference between the fair market value and what it was sold for, that difference is a gift and has to be recorded. Sometimes when people give money for a very specific thing, like a grandchild going to college or a child needs help with their car payment or whatever, sometimes people, they don't see that as a gift. They're just helping their kid. Well, anytime that you write a check to someone else, if you did not get value for that, that is a gift. And so I'm just telling you, harp on this and go through the different types of transfers for less than fair market value, because you don't want that to spring up on you later when you're trying to take all of this into account. And I tell people, just tell me, okay, just be sure and tell me. I can make it work out, but I just need to know what it is on the front end, okay? If you don't tell me, this is going to surprise us later on. And so basically, when there's a gift, add all of the gifts over the previous 5 years, 60 months, and divide it by your local divisor rate. Again, Amber has that on her state resources form. If you don't know what your divisor rate is, Amber has it. So gift divided by the divisor, that will tell you how many months you're going to be disqualified because of this gift. Okay, and I'll get to how we deal with that in just a second. All right, some common mistakes. All right, very common things that I see people do with a married couple. Your plan should not include any gifting, okay? Because with a married couple, transfers between spouses are not penalized. And so typically with a married couple with money, 500,000, a million or so, we can get them qualified instantly without giving the money away. That causes a penalty. We can get everything to the community spouse, again, after the snapshot date, get it to the community spouse and protect everything. Rarely, and you want to see my head explode is when someone goes to a non-elder law attorney and they're like, hey, we're worried about mom's house. We don't want to lose mom's house. What do we do about mom's house? Or mom and dad's house. Dad's going into the nursing home, and what do? We don't want to lose the house. And the attorney's like, oh, well, let's just give it to the kids. Well, yeah, you can, but that just causes all kinds of problems. It's creating a penalty when there didn't need to be a penalty. The wife, the community spouse, can live in the house with no issues. And so there should be no gifting with a married couple. Okay. Another common mistake, and this is more on the client than us, and this is why I tell people in every presentation I do, I always swerve into powers of attorney, and I always swerve into, hey, if you're paying privately at the nursing home, we should talk, because there's probably a really good chance you don't have to do that. And that surprises people. They're like, oh, well, I know my good friend Betty, her husband's been in the nursing home for 6 months and they're just paying every month. It's like, have her come see me. Okay. So clients wait too long, but we need to be very diligent. And if you take a case, you better get to work on it, okay? Because every month that you delay, every month you drag your feet, it's costing this family $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $12,000. All right. So don't wait. And then people don't understand the penalty divisor. I know I just explained it to you, but families also don't understand it. There's this perception out there that, okay, mom gave my no good brother $20,000 2 years ago, and I know there's a 5-year look back, so therefore I need to wait 3 more years before we can apply for Medicaid and just pay for the nursing home. No, that's the perception, but that is a huge misunderstanding. People need to understand that it's a look back. It's not a prohibition on gifting. It is a look back. You just have to tell Medicaid that you've done it. Once you tell them, they divide it by the penalty divisor. If your penalty divisor is $10,000 a month, a $20,000 gift is just a 2-month penalty. Well, you don't have to wait 3 years to qualify. You just have to get through those 2 months, and then she's on Medicaid. So there's huge misunderstandings, particularly with the public, about penalty divisors. All right. So how do we get someone qualified? All right. So with a married couple, well, and some of these apply to a single also. Let me retract that. All of these apply to a single. These are valid spend down options, but I will tell you why home improvements, vehicles, things like that are not good ideas for the single person, but I'll get to that in just a second. So valid spend down, one of the first things I look at is let's get debt paid off. We don't want the credit card companies, driving us crazy down the road, coming after us for this. And particularly if with a married couple, there's a mortgage on their home, the amount that has to be spent down, take that chunk and put it on that mortgage. Boom. That's an easy way to spend down money, and it directly benefits the spouse. She now has a paid off home, or she has drastically reduced the mortgage on that. This money's got to go somewhere, and so let's just put it on the mortgage and be done with it. And so, but also credit cards, car loans, different things like that, get those things paid off so that they're not hounding the community spouse with these bills. Hopefully she has everything paid for. Home improvements, have them critically look at the home. And in most situations where we do have spouses, it's the man going in first. Rarely did he just suddenly become incapacitated and can't do anything. Generally, this has been a 2, 3, 4 year decline. And so probably for 2, 3, or 4 years, no real improvements have been made on the home. And so there could be just some ongoing maintenance things that really need to be done. Some things need to be replaced, fixed or whatever. And so have the family really look at the home improvements. Now, practice pointer real quick. How do you get money spent on home improvements without waiting for the contractor to get done? Okay, it can take that contractor. I know here in Northwest Arkansas, there are houses going up everywhere, and I think that's true almost in most towns. And so getting someone to come out and do a major renovation could literally take 6 or 8 months. Well, we don't want to wait 6 or 8 months for this person to get the job done so we can pay them and finally get on Medicaid. We want to pay this as soon as possible. So here's what I've done. This works in my state, and I don't know why it would not work there. But if you're having trouble with this, have the family go out, find the contractor, come look at the job and say, look, give me a quote. I don't want an estimate. Tell me how much this is going to cost. And then question number 2 is, how do you want your payments? Do you want it half up front, half at the end, a third up front, third in the middle, third at the end? How do you want to be paid? And then take the contract and go to the bank and get cashier's checks. All right, cashier's checks. That pulls the money out of the person's account immediately. The bank pulls it out of their account, puts it into the bank's bank account to honor that check when it comes through. Well, it may not come through for 8 months. That's okay, because it's out of your client's account. It's gone. We can show Medicaid, yeah, here's $23,000 worth of cashier's checks gone to ABC Construction Company. Here's the contract that shows everything we're getting done for those $23,000. And so that way you can do it immediately, get them on Medicaid, and let the contractor do the work whenever they need to do the work. All right. Prepaid funeral contracts. Amber does those. Your local local funeral home does those. Have the family go down and do it. Make sure it's irrevocable. I always tell my families, tell the funeral home director you're doing this for Medicaid, and they should know that. If they don't know that, have them call me and we'll discuss it. But most funeral directors know, okay, if we're doing this for Medicaid, this needs to be irrevocable. And obviously, if you use Amber, she's going to do it correctly. All right. And then another great way to spend down money is with vehicles. Okay. So we can spend money on the vehicle. Typically, the wife is driving a 10, 15-year-old car that has, maybe 40,000 miles on it. Go get a new car, new tires, new transmission, 3-year warranty. Everything's great. You're going to be driving to go see him every single day. So get a new car. All right. Now, I typically don't recommend spending money on assets from single people, just because the Medicaid office is going to question buying a new car for someone who just went in to the nursing home. Yes, you can, but you probably shouldn't do that. Okay. Also, with the home, the weird thing about a home is Medicaid says, sure, you can own a home, but you can't pay for it because all of your income is going to the nursing home. Remember, this is a single person. And so if we keep the home while this person's on Medicaid, someone else has got to pay the taxes and the insurance and mow it and do things with it. And unless your state has a really cool way to avoid the Medicaid lien, they're going to put a lien on it when they die and get all their money back. So this person could have paid taxes, insurance, all these upgrades, thinking they were going to get it at death, only to see it go to Medicaid. So typically we recommend selling it or making it part of the gifting strategy. So let's talk real quick. If you are not familiar with a Medicaid annuity, I want to go through that real quick. The purpose of the Medicaid annuity is it converts assets to income. All right. Rule number 1, for a married spouse, the community spouse gets to keep all of their income. All right. So if we have this tool that will take assets, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 that's causing them to be disqualified due to assets, we convert it to income. Now it's not an asset anymore, it's income, and the rules say she gets to keep all of her income. Perfect solution. Now, if you use Amber, she will make sure all of these things get done, obviously, and I promise you, Amber doesn't pay me to do these. I just do these out of the goodness of my heart because I like Amber, okay? And I like doing these things. She does not pay me to do this, but I am telling you, when you have a person sitting in your office and says, oh, I've got an Edward Jones guy who will do that, or I've got a financial planner who can do this annuity, I cringe, because chances are they are not going to do it correctly. They may be the one financial person out there who knows how to do this, but I doubt it. If your people insist on their financial person doing this annuity, call me, because I've got a letter that you need to make them sign to say, look, I will not consult with your financial advisor. I will not be involved in this. You bring me the annuity that they do for you, I'll submit it to Medicaid, but if it's not correct, it is not my fault. Been there, done that, almost started suing each other, okay? And so I promise you, if they demand to use their person, do not talk to that financial advisor because they're going to mess it up. And if you consulted with them and it's messed up, they're going to say, well, I just did what the lawyer said. No, you didn't. But then it's he said, she said. So the absolute safest way to get through this is do not talk to the financial advisor. If they want to take this on, they're a big boy or they're a big girl and they can read the rules. And if they're absolutely determined that they're going to do this, then do it. But I'm not consulting on it. You bring me the annuity they do, I'll give it to DHS. But if it doesn't work, I'm out. Okay. And I'm telling you, you need to get that in writing signed by them. Right? Yes, I'm very riled up about that because I had that happen. And I'm just telling you, learn from my mistakes. So the Medicaid annuity works in the married case where we get those excess assets. We've spent everything. We've paid off the house, fixed the house, bought new household furnishings, got a new car, paid for the burial. Now we still have $100,000. What do we do with it? We put it into the annuity. It pays back to the wife as quick as possible, and we just protected it. All right. That's how the annuity works. It's the last thing that you do after spin down. In a single case, we're going to do a gift and annuity. When we do the gift, we create a penalty period and we put that through a formula to say, here's the gift, here's how much goes into the annuity. And that works out perfectly so that you can supplement the income, pay the nursing home each month, and be able to protect the amount that you gift. Okay. If you don't know how to do that, Amber will help you do that. I can help you do that if you want. I have a formula that will show you exactly how much you can gift and then how much goes into the annuity. Some of the key requirements of this annuity, it's irrevocable, non-assignable. It has to be actuarially sound. And so this is what allows us to or prevents us from getting people with $3, $4, $5 million onto Medicaid. You can only make that annuity pay so much a month. My recommendation is don't have the annuity pay out more than the average cost of nursing homes. So say $10,000 a month. You can do it up to $10,000 a month, but if you start getting up to the $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a month, I'm afraid you're going to start setting off some alarms at DHS to say, hey, we don't like this. This is too greedy. This is not, we don't like this. The rules don't disallow it, but you just don't want to make them mad. So being actuarially sound means we have to make this pay out within a certain length of time. And if you're capped at $10,000 or $12,000 a month, you can only go so long. So if the person's really owed, if they're like in their 90s, you may not be able to do Medicaid planning for them. Okay. Equal payments, no balloon payment, no deferred, and it must name the state as the primary beneficiary. So I always like to say this when I'm doing public presentations and they're like, hey, explain how Medicaid works. I'm like, okay. And so I go through my little thing and I say, what saves us here is an annuity. And I always turn around and I say, you don't own this annuity. Okay. And they're like, but I have annuities. I promise you don't have the annuity that is required. And they're like, are you sure? And I was like, I would bet next year's salary on it. And they're like, how? And I said, did you name the state of Arkansas as the next beneficiary? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, I win. All right. You're not going to name the state of Arkansas or your state as the first beneficiary of your annuity. So they don't own this annuity. So example, so husband needs nursing home care. That's what you'll typically see. And there are excess assets. And so spend down is what's needed. Just like I said, pay off the house, fix the house, household furnishings, washer and dryer, refrigerator, couches, beds, whatever, and funeral and car. And then whatever's left over, put it into this Medicaid annuity. Boom, she's on Medicaid very quickly. Or he's on Medicaid very quickly. She keeps all of the assets. Now, with an individual, it's simple, but it's also complicated. We have a widowed client comes in and she has more than $2,000. So basically, we run whatever there is that we need to give away. Like I said, I typically give away everything. Keep the car. Maybe the family may drive the car to take her to the nursing home or to the doctor, whatever. But typically, everything else, don't keep the house. Okay. Typically, and there's things there, but you basically calculate how much are we going to give away, and then put it through the formula to say, okay, with $200,000, we can do a $120,000 gift and an $80,000 annuity. All right, and it's the annuity that pays for her care during the penalty period. So I don't want to spend all day on annuities, but I mean, it's not just because this is what Amber sells, but they are hugely important. We use them all of the time because they're just beautiful tools in crisis planning. Like I just said, it protects the spousal income. It turns this asset into income back to her so that she gets to keep it. And if we can make it pay out quick enough, she's going to get it all and keep it. Okay. And in a single person, it's to cover the penalty for gifts when we're dealing with a single person. Now, here's something new that I am encouraging you that if this is working for you, congratulations. If it's not, give me a call because I think I have figured out the true dream team for elder law, and it is working with a financial advisor who understands what you're doing and is not territorial. And I have not been able to find those over 25 years. I have not found a financial advisor that fits both of those categories. All right. But if you can find one, if you can train one, and I am developing with my financial person, we are developing a training program to work with you and your financial person to get y'all on the same team. So many times, anytime that I would try to work with a financial advisor, they're like, hey, you aren't sending me clients. I'm like, I don't have any to send you because my people either already have a financial advisor and I'm not going to pull people from them, or at this point in their life, they're not going to use a financial advisor. So don't expect me to send you people. They're like, well, I send you people all the time. I'm like, yeah, and I make you look really good. I've saved their money. I help this married person. Yes, we rearrange things, but she's keeping all the money. You get to continue to invest all of this money while I got this person on Medicaid. That's helping you, but yes, thank you. But they just never stick around. And then if you do call, it's like, hey, I'm just curious about this. So like, well, that's my domain, not yours. You're like, oh my God, can we just talk about it? And typically the answer is no. And so I'm encouraging you, if you can find a financial advisor who truly is not territorial and will work with you, it is an amazing thing. I have significantly increased my law revenue because I am working with a financial advisor who spots things and says, you know, I think a charitable remainder trust would fit this situation. You're like, I never thought about that. And they can explain the tax and investment protocol with that. And the client's like, yes, let's do that. Well, there's another $3,500. Okay. Because the financial advisor saw something that you didn't, and you got to do another trust for them, which really saved them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. I was in a meeting recently, and Ian is my financial guy sitting there right beside me, and this guy brought a trust. It was extremely complicated. It was AB trust done back in the early 2000s. I was like, look, you don't have enough money. I don't think you have a taxable estate. Well, one of his businesses, due to the new administration and different things, his business had tanked. Okay. But he said, I think it's a temporary thing. I think it's eventually going to go up and do even better. But at this point, it's very low. And I was like, okay, well, see, you don't have a taxable thing. And Ian jumped in and he said, I disagree. I'm like, what? He said, if it truly does go up, and the industry that he was in seemed to indicate that it would substantially go up, he said, this is a perfect time to do an estate freeze. And I was like, what does that mean? And so he said, let's get that business into another tool and freeze it there. And then when it grows outside of the estate. And therefore, this person doesn't have a taxable issue. And I was like, I never thought about that. And so I'm just encouraging you to, if you have a financial person, get with them, and it can truly make your life different. And particularly when it comes to estate planning, but end of life planning, it's huge. Okay. I'm going to brag about Amber for just a second. You need to use someone. Again, I went off on that tangent about letting their financial person do their Medicaid qualifying annuity. I can almost guarantee you that they won't do it correctly. Amber will. Okay. She knows the underwriting timelines. She understands what you're going through. They respond super quick. I mean, they're sometimes within minutes. Okay. She knows the carriers and the terms that will meet your needs, and they do all the paperwork. Okay. She'll just email you stuff, you print it, have the client sign it. Super easy, super appropriate. Yeah, that's a word. Okay. Practical tips. Get involved early. Okay. Get clients to come see you as soon as they can, even before the person goes into the nursing home. Okay. Get them in as soon as possible. Always run the numbers before recommending gifting and annuities. And I always tell my coaching clients, look, for the first 20 that you do, get the numbers, tell the client, hey, can I get you some water? Or number one, schedule them for a week later so that you can run the numbers. And particularly if they're very new at this, what they do is they just do the first meeting, get the numbers, and say, hey, let's schedule you for next month or next week. I'm going to run these numbers. I will have very good numbers for you next week. What they do is they get me those numbers. We go through it, come up with the game plan. And so at that meeting, they're able to present a very solid plan. I love doing that. I've done this so many times. I can do it in the meeting almost always. But even if you don't want to bring them back, just say, hey, can I get you some water? I'm going to go for about 15 minutes, run some numbers. I encourage you to not do this in front of the client the first 20 times you do it. Go to your desk, run the numbers, rerun the numbers, make sure it's correct, and then go back and tell them. Don't forget the house. Okay. There are some things, particularly when you have a married couple. One of the things I did not go into, but don't forget, we don't want the community spouse to die and everything be owned by the institutional spouse. Okay. So one of the things we do is we make sure that the house goes from husband and wife just to community spouse. All right. That way, she dies, we do something with house. In Arkansas, we can do a beneficiary deed so that it goes to the kids, not the spouse. Okay. Not all states can do that, but think about the house. Don't make it so that if the community spouse dies, now this home is owned just by the institutional spouse. And use the annuity. It works great for married and single. Document the intent for doing that, and Amber will help you justify that. Okay. Whoops. Okay. I went through this again. Break down the asset, spend down, buy the annuity, approval. It's easy, but it's not that easy. Okay. It is literally do this, but do it correctly. All right. A single person, again, asset transfers, anything that was transferred for less than fair market value, figure out how much can be gifted and then how much goes into the annuity. All right, real quick before questions, let me just tell you real quick about, I started this about 6 years ago because people were calling me saying, hey, Todd, I need help. Okay. I want to help. I love to help. I think this is the best job in the world. I get to sit at my conference table. I get to truly solve problems. And it's just the best job in the world. And I would love to help you do it. You can learn the rules, but applying the rules to the situation sometimes is very difficult and it's complicated. I give you everything that I use in my office. If you join coaching, I will give you all of my tools, all of my forms, all of my slide presentations, everything that you need. And you get 2 1-hour phone calls per month. Like I said, my coaching clients meet with the client, get me the stuff, we go through it, and eventually, over time, they learn how to do this, and then I'm just there to answer certain questions. If you want to discuss this, I encourage you, go to my website, theelderlawcoach.com. There's a ton of information there, blog posts, podcasts, all kinds of things that I do. Now, you're the first people that I'm telling this publicly to. I am doing what I am calling a transformation weekend, February of 2026. Okay. It is one weekend that I will teach you everything that you need to know. It's all day Friday, it's all day Saturday, and it's half a day on Sunday. It is intense, but it will truly transform your practice from either not knowing anything about elder law to leaving that Sunday night having a very good grasp. And I will be with you for the next 6 months. And if you're just kind of dabbling in it and you really want to deep dive into it, this is the weekend for you. I encourage you, give us a call. Email Trisha. She's my main person who's planning this. So Trisha at theelderlawcoach.com. If you truly want to transform and do this right, join me in Bentonville, Arkansas, February of 2026. Okay, questions?
We do have some questions here, Todd. Somebody is asking, a client had a timeshare in his revocable living trust. He could not sell it. The timeshare company would take back the timeshare for $1,500. We paid the $1,500 and the timeshare was deeded back. Does this cause a penalty, and do attorney fees cause a penalty?
Oh, good question. Attorney's fees do not cause a penalty because you are getting value for that. And I think you could clearly argue that you had to pay $1,500 to get this transfer back. It obviously did not have any value to it. And so that the caseworker should understand that. I mean, say, look, here's the letter from the timeshare company saying, we will take it back, but you have to pay us. Well, just by that wording, it has no value. So that should cause a penalty.
Perfect. Can you email the materials to me, Todd, afterwards? We have some people asking for a copy of the slides.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Somebody else is asking about whether Medicaid compliant annuities are valid in New York. I can take that. They are valid in New York. The issue that we run into in New York is that there are not insurance companies that offer short-term Medicaid compliant contracts. So in a lot of scenarios in New York, a promissory note becomes more attractive than the annuity, just because the annuity has to be structured for a longer period of time, just based on the constraints of the product availability in the state of New York. Another question that we have is, if the government cuts Medicaid funding, will that affect Medicaid for long-term care or only Medicaid health coverage for low-income families?
Well, that's a political question, and there's a lot of different parts of Medicaid, and when you hear congressmen and news people saying, oh my God, they're cutting Medicaid, they say that to scare everybody, okay? And there are different parts of Medicaid, and I cannot imagine that they are going to cut drastically care for old people who are totally disabled and cannot make money, and are getting care that's costing $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 per month. They may, but I just think there's a whole lot of other, quote, Medicaid services that they will cut before they start cutting long-term care. That's pure opinion, but I've just been doing this long enough that I just can't see people who get elected every 2 years or 6 years having their name on something where they're truly kicking old people out of the nursing home.
Okay, could you clarify what you mean by calculating the gift after spending on qualified expenses?
Yep. So, and this will take quite some time. Just email me and I will, because you're on this webinar, I will send you my, what I call the golden formula, because once you can figure this out, it truly is golden, that you can either cover up for past gifts, or people come in saying, my single mom's going into the nursing home, I know the number's $2,000, we're going to lose everything, right? And you're like, no. You run the numbers and say, I can protect about 62% of everything. They're like, how do you do that? Well, it's this golden formula. And once you can tell them that you come in here thinking you're going to lose 100%, and I'm going to tell you that you can keep 62%, they will hire you. Okay. They will write the check for you to do that for them. So, email Trisha. I gave you that email address, Trisha at theelderlawcoach.com, and she will shoot you over the golden formula. Okay.
Okay, there's another question here. If I have a persistent caseworker, I have used closed eBay sales to show value for a timeshare. Okay, that's just an add-on to the timeshare question that.
Well, right, and the problem is comparing apples to apples. You know, there are one bedroom timeshares and there's 4-bedroom timeshares. There's some that are in Hawaii and there's some that are, you know, in Branson, Missouri. Okay. So, you know, there are, you know, it's hard to compare, you know, those directly based on some, used to back in the good old days when redweek.com, that was the place that you could go and that's where people sold or rented timeshares. And for years, I could go there and plug in and I could find one almost exactly like the one I'm asking about in the same complex, okay, in the very same complex, print that out as a value and say, okay, Medicaid, here's how much this is worth. But you go to Red Week now, it's like, we have nothing. We have no sales, no anything. I mean, there's just so many lawsuits that timeshare values have just basically gone to zero.
Okay, somebody is asking about the cost of the February 2026 weekend seminar. Is that something they should email you about?
Yes, email us.
Okay. I think that is all of the questions, but Todd, did you want to give your email address so that if people have questions for you, or do you want them to email Trisha?
The best thing is to email Trisha, but my email address is Todd, Todd, at theelderlawcoach.com. Always include Trisha, because I will tell you, I am super busy. I'm not the best about emails. And Trisha, if you'll send it to Trisha, she will make sure that I see it. Okay.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate you, Todd, being on today's webinar, presenting this great material. And thank you, everybody, for joining us, and be on the lookout for the May webinar topic as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.